Starting a new one?
I just started recording, so
Oh, nice.
guys, I do need to say this before we start. I left my earbuds in so I could, while I went to the bathroom, so I could hear you guys while I was peeing, and that was really weird. I probably won't ever do that again. So,
Well, I'm glad you switched the mic before.
gosh dang it, that makes me mad. It was on the right mic, and then I put my earbuds in, and it. So mad.
Yep.
So, anyways, all right, you guys ready? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Odd Testament podcast. My name is Ryan.
My name's Eric.
I'm Greg. Is that how we do this?
With your bright shirt. I love it. This is the place where we dive into the strange, odd, weird, curious stories of the Bible. And whether you're here for a fresh perspective on scripture, or you're exploring faith, or you just need a laugh, like, you're in the right place. Thanks for joining us today, boys. Glad to be on with you once again. How you doing?
Doing great.
Just okay.
Just
good.
Just a little bit of that.
I just had this really long conversation with these two guys, and
yeah,
we got have you ever heard emotional vampires, where you're around them, they just feel like they suck the life,
suck the energy out of you. Yeah, my son is graduating 6th grade soon, and so that is surreal. That is
wow.
He's 11 turning 12 this year, and we just got a new car, and we were like talking about when my wife gets a new car, and I go, well, in 4 years we can just give your car to Balin, and she was like, you're never allowed to say that number ever again. That we are progressively getting closer and closer, like just not even that far away. Like 4 years is just a blur. That my son will be 16, but he starts middle school. I'm terrified, but he's excited, and it's gonna be crazy. So, but I'm gonna cry because I'm an emotional mess. I cried dropping him off at kindergarten, and I'm for sure going to cry at graduation of his 6th grade. So, but I'm excited about that. It's gonna be a fun one.
So same kind of conversation for Robin and I. I drive a little Ford Fusion right now. I used to drive a truck. Really love my truck, and I want another one. And Robin and I are having a conversation, and she kind of the same deal. She goes, "Well, let's just keep the car until Titus starts driving. We'll give the car to him, and then you can get a truck." I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like only 5.5 years away. I'm like, oh my gosh, how old am I? So
100%,
man,
100%.
Feel you.
Well, guys,
Greg, you're already like 1 foot in the grave, so
part of me dies each day. But it gives me perspective. It's how wisdom is made.
Go ahead.
Well, I think it's time for
getting to know you, getting to know you, getting to know you, getting to know you.
The getting to know you question, and Eric,
getting to know you.
That's the one I want when I'm leading the conversation. I want heavy metal, growl music. Okay, here's the question. And because you're dudes, I know you've definitely thought about this. But the question is, what medieval weapon would you use if you lived in that time? Like what, so you got the maces, the spears, pikes, like a long sword, like a gladius sword, so a short sword, or bow and arrow, crossbow. I mean, the list just kind of, I know that stretches across a bunch of different eras, but if you were in that medieval time frame, what would be the weapon you would choose?
Hmm. That's so okay.
My
So
rapier wit.
Just a,
My
you would make
like
fun of people on the battlefield.
uh-huh. Yeah, the Monty Python. I fart in your general direction. That kind of thing
Yeah.
would be.
Your
I like the
mother loves
idea of
elderberries.
exactly. I like the idea of a mace or maybe a flail, but I think a mace is more controllable. So
That's a good
flail
one.
with their little chain and things swinging around, I might hit myself.
I think of that opening scene of Lord of the Rings where Sauron has like the big mace and he's just swinging and
Oh
people
yeah,
are flying around there. Like,
yeah,
yeah, that's like the coolest depiction of a mace in any like lore TV. Yeah, Ryan, what's your medieval weapon?
So it's weird. I'm going between two, and they're completely opposite. I like
run away.
I would love to like be an expert at like the longbow, right? So almost like a sniper, a medieval sniper. But I feel like that's kind of like I feel like that's kind of wussy, like
I don't know. I've read
I'm
legitimately their bodies would actually change. They would shoot so much that their entire skeletal setup had to change.
oh
to it.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, I just mean like I'm so far away from the action that, and I'm picking people off, without there ever being any danger for me, which sounds really smart, but it makes me feel like less of a man. It's just my own deal, I guess. I need to work that out in therapy. But so it's between a longbow and a battle axe. Battle axe obviously is like close combat, you're getting limbs hacked off while you're trying to do that to other people. So like complete opposite, but those are what I'm torn between. I think I got to go with the battle axe.
Yeah.
Now, are you thinking a Viking axe, which is more of a handheld axe kind of thing, or you got to have more Middle Earth? Dwarf. You got to swing this thing. It weighs 30 pounds.
I mean, in my head, I imagine like the two almost like larger hatchet type things, like that's what I imagine. But
Mel Gibson in Patriot.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's a brutal scene. Go ahead. Battle axes. I like it. Well, call me a wuss. I would go bow and arrow. I play a lot of video games, and I'm playing a video game called Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where you play as a Viking warrior, and one of my favorite weapons is the bow and arrow that I found and have been like upgrading, and I'm deadly with it. And then I love the shooter games. I'm always the sniper, the distance guy. So I am the like. I'm going to take down an entire army with a bow and arrow. Legolas and Lord of the Rings, like Robin Hood. Like that's.
I was going to say, ultimately for me, it came down to: do I want to be Legolas or do I want to be Gimli? And I choose Gimli.
Choose Gimli. We'll be friends at the end of it all. So that'll be good.
There you go.
Well, I do feel like I know you guys a little bit better because of that. Because if we ever get in, the place where we start monetizing this stuff, what I expect is right behind you is those weapons. I want Ryan, I want you to get the battle axes where they're like crossed over, and then Greg, we're gonna get a mace, and anybody who mismanages the receipts,
branded.
That's right. That's right. There we go. So just like me, you got to display your weapons, so you gotta get that going. So we'll see. That'll be our first monetization purchase, right, Ryan?
Yes. And actually you can get a flanged mace on Amazon for $91 right now. So there you go.
There's my home defense solution.
you sleep with it.
Someone comes in and you're like, is that a mace? Are you getting ready to?
What's more terrifying, a handgun?
I'm gonna hit you with my mace
at the top of the stairs.
Oh no!
There's a guy in his underwear holding a mace. That's
good.
Inviting you. Come on up.
Yeah.
Hey, I got coffee.
Let's
handle this like men.
Stand on the plastic I've laid down. Like, I've been prepped for you. Come on.
We just got a new carpet. We
At
my
at
wife
that point,
would
you're like,
kill me.
you know what? I thought I was going to rob you, but
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go. I'm thinking I'm gonna go right back through the
anywhere
door here.
else. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm leading the convo today. I got a really
Real
fun
quick,
one.
sorry. I know we're out of time.
No.
But that based on the Sodom one, that's what the threat could be. Bro, I'm getting ready to decreate you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna decrease.
Your Bible insults. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's
I
good.
like it. Yeah, we figured it out.
Mhm.
That's our first merch now too.
Yes,
Uh,
bro. Yes. Let's
Mhm.
go.
can we do it with like an Ed Hardy tiger,
Mm.
like something like that?
Mhm.
Whatever. Well, yeah, like I said, I'm leading the conversation today, and we're gonna play 7 questions. See if you guys can guess what our topic is, and go from there. So 7 questions.
Old Testament?
Yes.
Ooh, Old Testament. Does it have to do with David?
I no, but I'll say tangentially.
I don't know what that word means, but okay.
Connected.
Connected to it.
Okay.
If how about Solomon?
No.
Ooh, Saul. Does it have to do with King Saul?
No, but
Tangentially. Yeah.
tangentially.
Gotcha.
Jonathan.
Yes.
How many are we at?
Ooh,
4 questions?
5.
Does that count one as one of the questions? Me asking about the questions. So climbing up the cliff face story.
Yes. Yeah, nailed it. And 6, Jonathan and his armor bearer.
Nice.
There it is.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about Jonathan and his armor bearer. And this is an odd story, as cool as it is,
Yes.
as Lord of the Rings as it is.
Right.
This is odd in one specific way, just how crazy it is that Jonathan and his armor bearer would do something like this. And so, have you guys ever preached a message on this story before?
I have not.
Okay.
Yeah. I called it if is enough.
Yeah.
But it's something like that. I can't remember. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get to that, and so Ryan, we're gonna put this one in your quiver.
I called it Perhaps God. That's what
Yep.
it was.
Yeah. So I did one before, but I couldn't find any notes that I have on it, so I just started square one,
Nice.
which is good because I got to kind of revisit the story a little bit more.
Mhm.
It's also one of those where, like, because it's really short and it's sandwiched in between some really big things around King Saul and his relationship with God and the prophet Samuel. There's just a lot that kind of goes on here, and it's like, you can kind of breeze past it, but it's a really fun one to talk about. And so just to set the stage, like we've done a little bit before, for those who are entering into the Bible and you're following us on the journey of reading some of these odd and strange stories that are in the Bible, it's always good to kind of not just jump right into the story, but get a little understanding of what has happened before and then read the story, and it'll help educate on where it's going. So this is a narrative style story that we're going to be reading here. And it's very grounded also. Like I think out of some of the oddest parts of this and some of the stories that we've talked about, this is could and relatively, it feels like it could happen. And so we got a man named Jonathan, who is the son of Israel's first king Saul. And so Jonathan would be next in line. Like, this is how it's supposed to be, but we get a lot of problems with Saul very quickly. So Saul is I think probably the best way that I read him is insecure. Would you guys feel that? Like, he's supposed to be this really tall figure. He looks like a king. He like, this is why the people have chosen him. But I don't know. You guys kind of gave me some eyebrow raises, some
I
head
go
nods.
insecure at a minimum.
Sure.
As a baseline. At worst, demonically oppressed at some point, but
Yeah.
potentially mentally unstable.
Yes. Yeah. Do you think him stepping into kingship is like entered into that unstable, or
I think it broke him. Yeah.
yeah? Speaking of Captain America behind me, there's a part in the first Captain America movie before they give Steve Rogers the super soldier serum, and they say if you give a man power, he'll become more of what he already is. And so it's interesting to look at Saul. He's given power and he becomes more of what he already is. We don't get a lot of story of who Saul was before, but I think it can be assumed. We could read that into the text potentially, that he gets worse and worse.
Power doesn't change you. Power reveals who you are. Yeah.
100%. And so
yeah, and it doesn't mean that you're necessarily bad. It just means you may not be wired to handle that. I think a quick reference I'll make is that what we see, Samuel is the last judge. So come out of the book of Judges, which we just mentioned briefly. It's just Judges is a nightmare. They're coming out of that. And what we see in Saul, in my opinion, is acting in a reactionary way, in the same way that some of the worst judges do, making vows, and you're going to see that in these inability, where you see in Gideon the inability to he doesn't process after the heroic stuff well, for example. But anyway,
so I'm going to start in actually 1 Samuel chapter 13, right at the kind of in the meat of that chapter right there. What we get is Saul raises up an army to go against the Philistines. They win a battle, but then the Philistines raise up a much larger army to go against the Israelites. The Israelites retreat. Some of them like run far away, and then some of them just hide in caves. Like they disappear. They, like ants running away from ant spray. Ant killer, and all this stuff. And so before he leaves, Samuel gives Saul commission of, hey, wait, I'm going to return in 7 days. I'm going to do a burnt offering and then give you direction on what to do next. So they're waiting. Saul's waiting. On the seventh day, he is seeing this massive army rise up. He's seeing his army dwindle day by day, and he's in I would say in his mind knows the formula to figure out what to do, which is do a burnt offering and then I'll learn what I'm supposed to do. But he misses the part where it's Samuel, the prophet, is supposed to do this. And so he does this burnt offering, and it says in chapter 13 that Samuel comes right as the burnt offering has been done. And then 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 13, how foolish, Samuel exclaimed, you have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. Had you kept it, the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now your kingdom must end, for the Lord has sought out a man after his own heart. We're going to talk about David and some of these other stories, but this is a key. Before we've introduced David, this is what God is looking for, as a man after his own heart. The Lord has already appointed him to be the leader of his people because you have not kept the Lord's command. So this is going to be reiterated later as Saul does a few other actions that spurs on this language from Samuel from God. What's your guys' interpretation so far? Why is Saul being punished so harshly?
I think it's easy disobedience.
Yeah.
He didn't do what God asked him to do, and it's not. I'm pretty sure it's not the first time, right? like this is a history. It's a pattern of like behavior, and so I think that's on the surface what's going on.
The necessity to obey. So we can go, all he did was make this small choice. You're misdirecting the reading, or you're coming at it from a wrong direction. I would think that let's imagine Ryan was a chemist and he's trying to teach Eric and I how to combine two things that, if not combined correctly, will explode and kill everyone in the building. And so he's like, hey, I just gotta, go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. And we're like, hey, we can just do this. We're pretty sure he's just gonna throw these things together. I've seen him do this before. So we know the steps, right? Let's just do this.
Mhm.
But we haven't paid attention to the steps, and we're not authorized to do this, however you want to put
Yeah.
together. And so this is the context. Obedience is necessary because of, if nothing else, how important this thing is and the damage that could happen if obedience doesn't happen. And you're like, well, it's just pouring this together. It's just doing the sacrifice.
Mhm.
The story's telling you it's a bigger deal than that. Read the story and let the story teach us what this is going on. So anyway, that's what I think. Obedience.
I also like this idea of self-sufficiency, that Saul, and we see it again kind of reoccurring through a couple different actions. The reason why I would lean into, again, at minimum insecurity, like you said, Greg, is some of what exposes from our insecurity is our self-sufficiency, is a lack of control. And so you learn to control, which the reality is you can only control yourself. And so, well, I've been given these tools, I've been given this, I'll just do the best with what I can. And this is, I would say, some of the call of being a people of God is that you are not self-sufficient. His promise to, all the way back from Abraham, all the way through Jesus, and now to us here in 2025, is that you don't have to be self-sufficient. God is sufficient. He will help. He will provide. We get examples of God's provision later on and all this type of stuff. But the reason why I kind of start here is to contrast Saul and Jonathan. There is a self-sufficiency in Saul, but we don't see this kind of behavior with Jonathan. And this is really unique in the Bible, where we see the actions of a father not extending down to the son. And there's and we don't necessarily get a reason why Jonathan is better or understands what God's will is, but I'm gonna blame Jonathan's mom. I don't know. I'm just assuming it's all parents. But Jonathan is faithful. He understands this, where his father seems to be lacking. Jonathan has this in spades, and understands this a little bit. So, like I said, huge army rises up, but there's also a major problem with this, is even if the army is small, God has provided in ways before. Again, Book of Judges, we get Gideon, whole other podcast, all of that good stuff. But then we have this problem right here, 1 Samuel chapter 13-19. There were no blacksmiths in the land of Israel in those days. The Philistines wouldn't allow them for fear they would make swords and spears for the Hebrews. So when the Israelites needed to sharpen their plowshares, picks, axes, and sickles, they had to take them to a Philistine blacksmith, and then just kind of go down to verse 22. So on the day of the battle, none of the people of Israel had a sword or a spear except for Saul and Jonathan. So this is not a recipe for success of what's about to happen right here. So let me recap. So one side we have the Philistines, hundreds of thousands strong, complete with swords, spears, body armor, and 3,000 of the most technologically advanced war machines called chariots. On the other hand, we have Israelites who are pitchforks and at best an axe and a sickle, and they are terrified, and they're hiding behind rocks and in caves and in crossing into distant lands just to get away. Have you guys ever heard of Kobayashi Maru?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Star Trek term, right?
Yeah.
It's this scenario training exercise that they put Star Trek fleet cadets through to put them in an impossible no-win situation. And then we actually, in Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, but I think they did this in the newer Star Treks too, but I don't know if they called it the Kobayashi Maru. But Captain Kirk actually wins the no-win possible situation. Do you guys remember how he wins?
He cheats.
No.
He cheats. He reprograms the training exercise so that he can win. And his justification for it, because he gets penalized, because the whole training exercise is, what would you do? How do you react in an impossible situation? And because there's no winning. If you run, if you fight, it doesn't matter. You lose this exercise. That is the point of it. And Captain Kirk wins, and his justification is there's no such thing as a no-win situation. Like, that's his whole justification within this. And so I like this idea in framing some of the people that we read in the Bible, that having God is like this cheat code to life. It is this, there is always a solution to a no-win situation. And so if I can put my preacher hat on a little bit, for those of us who feel like you're in situations and it just seems impossible, whether it's that debt or that family situation or whatever it is, and it just feels like no win, well, the follower of Jesus as a solution to no-win situations. I think this is really great. Do you guys, what are your thoughts on this so far? Thumbs up.
I'm so practical. I agree in attitude that this is the point of view. And sometimes the win, sometimes if I am deeply in debt, the process through that is usually still a process, and the miracle is that you woke up and started acting different, and moving toward walking in wisdom and things like that. So understanding that the hope necessary to go through the process is sometimes the miracle that goes on. It's harder to excitedly preach that, but I agree with the idea that if we start obeying, we start acting in the wisdom God has given, then often that salvation is realizing how to live.
Yeah, but the action's tricky, right? Because Saul's in a similar no-win situation as we're going to see Jonathan is in, and Saul's action is not the one that God calls to. So I think we like, there's a lesson that we're learning almost immediately in this story, which is, like this is faith without action is dead. Faith without deeds, like this is how it falls flat. But what action? How do we know we're doing the right thing? This is where so much stuff that we're going to go into. Ryan, any other thoughts?
Nope.
Sweet. Okay. So now,
awesome.
Now, fun part of the story here.
So really quick, I'm sorry, I'm shook right now because when you said Kobayashi Maru, I was like, oh, the Japanese competitive eater. So, I'm kind of off my game right now. So, so
let's spiritually
proceed.
So, God has put in front of you a pile of hot dogs.
yeah, and they seem impossible. And Joey Chestnut is right next to you. You're surrounded by your enemies.
How do you beat him?
You
cheat. You throw hot dogs off the side when no one's looking.
You're a 140-pound Asian man, and you're going up against a New Jersey 220-pound, terrifying Joey Chestnut.
You gotta fight with worship.
That's right. You gotta dunk the hot dogs in water, and that's why baptism. That's why baptism is so important.
Just made someone mad.
Born again of water and flesh. So what?
Ryan's all uncomfortable. Look at me.
No, just over here feeling stupid. So
no.
Proceed.
It's okay. Well, now you have a movie to watch. Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. Great movie, by the way. Essential in sci-fi. So chapter 14. It starts with all of this background, and Jonathan. Saul sends out a couple different groups, and Jonathan is with one of these groups, and we get this awesome, really cool story with Saul's son Jonathan and his armor bearer. So chapter 14 starts with Jonathan looking at his armor bearer and says, "Let's go out to the Philistine outpost while everyone is waiting around." And so in verse 6, we get this memorable line from Jonathan. It says, "Let's go across to the outposts of those pagans." Jonathan said to his armor bearer, "Perhaps the Lord will help us, for nothing can hinder the Lord. We can win a battle, whether he has many warriors or only a few." So in just a second, I'm going to ask you guys about this word perhaps and how it applies here. But perhaps in the Hebrew, this word is ulai, which means perhaps, maybe, perchance, or suppose. And in your guys' messages, Greg, sounds like you said, your message had this perhaps title to it. What makes perhaps so important? Like, this word is the rising action of our story here.
Fortune favors the bold, kind of idea. They're sitting around for no reason. And Jonathan, we get a picture of why Jonathan and David are pals, why they're friends. So let's do something. Let's get this done.
There's a Goliath across the valley, or in the valley. There's a Philistine army up a cliff.
What's confusing about this? Just go do something.
Absolutely. Ryan, when you hear perhaps in this, perhaps the Lord will help us, what comes to mind as you're reading or hearing that?
Yeah, so it makes me think of actually a message I'm getting ready to preach this Sunday about stepping out in faith, and how like when God calls us to do something, we don't just sit around waiting for him to do it. Like, we actually have to take a step towards it and trust that he's going to be with us along the way. And that's exactly what I'm thinking of here. Like, this is the right thing to do. Perhaps God will be with us, perhaps he won't, but we're going to do the right thing no matter what. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of,
Yeah. I mean, it's a statement of faith, right? The odds are against us. Kobayashi Maru. This is a no-win. This is designed for us to fail. Perhaps the Lord will be what he's been before, and he will go on our behalf. We a bunch of podcasts before, I did the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It's a very similar, perhaps, doesn't use that word, but that mindset of like, he'll save us, and even if he doesn't, he is still good, he is still right. Last week we discussed Abraham's negotiations, or I guess it was 2 episodes ago, with God regarding if there's any righteous people in Sodom and Gomorrah. It's actually this perhaps that we get here is the same word that is used when he says, suppose there are. Suppose there's 40 people. Perhaps there's 40 people, God. So it's a petition. Like, it's this God, like, let me give you an idea. Let me just throw this out to you. Like, can this be? I like, what if? Like, just because the scenario, like, there's a what if, like, glass is half empty, and there's a what if glass is half full. So what if I lose all the water that I have left? Or what if there's a pitcher that fills it more than I ever had before? And there's like I think the differentiation is doubt and faith, right? This is going to be a reoccurring theme that we'll read in the Bible, is those who suffer from doubt, insecurity, self-sufficiency are afraid to lose, and those who step out in action and in faith will see blessing. And even if they don't, their goal wasn't to receive blessing, it was to do what they were supposed to do. Parable of talents, right? Yeah. Awesome. So the chapter 14 verse 7, Another memorable line for me, but I think
Mhm.
some people might go past this. This is the armor bearer's reply: "Do what you think is best. I'm with you completely, whatever you decide." And so here's something, there's I think there's design people. Sometimes it's a personality type, but sometimes I think God has set people on a specific path that they are supposed to be the leaders. They're the people that are supposed to step out in front. I think missionaries, in the church world, I would think missionaries, entrepreneurs, business leaders, the church planters. It's a what if statement. It's a perhaps God will do what he wants to do for his kingdom through me. Perhaps he will do this. That being said, I don't think everybody is this person, and that's not a better or worse. I think for as many people that are Jonathans, there's going to be 5-10 times as many armor bearers, people who are supposed to be around that person, have their own mission, have their own thing, but they're there to ensure that God's mission is going to be moving forward. And so this armor bearer maybe had Jonathan's shield, maybe had a pitchfork at his side, but doesn't have a sword. But he goes, this is the vision, this is the mission, this is what the leader who is confident in what God is saying, we're going to go follow that. And the confidence, I think, comes from he's not doing what Saul did. He's doing what I think is the right thing to do here. Yeah, not explicitly said, but his confidence.
Back in the late 90s, there was an idea that as staff pastors and things, or leaders under leaders, that were supposed to be armor bearers for other leaders, and that always rubbed me the wrong way. And mostly because I don't think I'm Jonathan. I think I'm an armor bearer, but I'm maybe a high level armor bearer where I'm like,
Sure.
No, if this is what we're going to do, then I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah.
But if we don't need to react, I would prefer to set this up so that we know we're going to win.
Yeah.
Let's increase our chances. So I'm not going to say how I'm wound. I'm probably not going to say let's climb the cliff, but I'm going to say no. We can climb the cliff. Let's create some gradients so we know how we're going to get up and things like that. No, we can win. There's no question. It's not a lack of faith. It's that I just want to make sure we increase our chances.
Yeah.
So I'm armor bearer in that way. But if we got to go, let's go. That said, they were pushing like you have to be armor bearers, and if you're not, then you're not supporting and stuff like that. And look, everything you've heard in church about bad church leadership has probably come out of the time that I'm saying that's what they were saying. That these 90s pastors, these 2000s pastors, including myself, that weren't good leaders and shouldn't have been followed because they just were toxic. Not all of them, I'm just saying, but this idea, be an armor bearer. I was like, okay, I believe in that. But listen, if you want an armor bearer, be a prince. You got to deserve it. You want loyalty, you have to be loyal. Anyway, side note of a leadership lesson. You want the good things, then be the type of thing that deserves the good things. So
absolutely. Anyway. I also like it in that mindset. For those of us who feel like there's a call in our lives to carry vision, let's say Jonathan is this metaphorical leader, and his job is to carry out the vision for God, which is to defeat an enemy, go on a mission for what God has called you to do. David was an armor bearer before he was king, before he sits in a place. So I think there is something really healthy about sitting in places of support before you sit in places of authority, so you understand the weight of carrying vision with something, and then also so that when you get into it, you don't abuse those that choose to follow you as well. It's that I think everybody should be a server at a restaurant at some point in their life, so that you treat servers better. It should probably apply across the board, but that seems to be the easiest one. So then when you meet anybody in any type of service industry, you would go, oh yeah, this is a hard job. You should treat your nurses, your doctors, your the servers, your plumber who comes over to your house. I had a guy come and fix the windshield on my car, and the first thing I did was, hey, do you want a glass of water? It wasn't even that hot of a day, but I want to make sure you're okay because you're doing a service for me. So leaders, take care of your armor bearers. Those who are leaders, be an armor bearer before you become a leader. Verse 8, all right then. I think Jim Carrey, alrighty then.
Righty.
Jonathan told him, we will cross over, let them see us. If they say to us, stay where you are or we'll kill you, then we'll stop and not go up to them. But if they say, come up and fight, then we will go up. That will be the Lord's sign that he will help us defeat them. So here's one of the things that I want to kind of put here, and because the rest of the story wraps up really quickly after this point, is faith without action is dead, but action without a plan. And so I see a lot of people in the church world just not establishing a plan for how they are going to succeed in their faith. Have you guys seen that in your ministry time? Maybe let's look at the example of a new Christian or a recovering Christian, meaning they're coming back to their faith, super excited, on fire for God, ready to do all the good work, but then it just falls flat. What do you think is missing? What plan is missing for people to rise up to the call that God has for them?
I think
go ahead, please.
I think thinking beyond the moment, beyond I think a lot of times people can just coast on emotion so far that they don't even think okay, how what do I logistically got to do to make sure I don't fall back or whatever. You're just so hyped up on emotion that they don't even think logically that it's out the window. And so I think I think that's a big part of what causes people to backslide or fall away or whatever, however you want to say it. Just being so wrapped up in the moment emotionally, you can't think ahead. So
yeah, I think an either or version of miracles or disciple, and that's it's too easy to state it that way, but I think easy to conceive. And so you get saved and it's unbelievable, but then no practical plan versus the places that have tons of practical plan but no move of the Spirit. And the argument, well, our plans are the move of the Spirit. I agree with you actually, but there's also what everyone else also calls the move of the Spirit, an emotive thing. And so it's not an either or, it's a both and we can like I said, we can put gradients in the cliff so that we can get everybody up, and make sure you go. We need both. We can have a great plan and not go. So, or it's irrelevant because, they've moved now. We took so long to plan that now everything's changed. So, which is also a church thing. I think you guys nailed it right there. So here, let me wrap up the story here. So verse 11 of chapter 14, when the Philistines saw them coming, they shouted, "Look, the Hebrews are crawling out of their holes." Then the men from the outpost shouted to Jonathan, "Come on up here and we'll teach you a lesson." "Come on, climb right behind me," Jonathan said to his armor bearer, "for the Lord will help us defeat them." So they climbed up using both hands and feet, and the Philistines fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer killed those who came behind them. They killed some 20 men in all, and their bodies were scattered all about half an acre. Suddenly, panic broke out in the Philistine army, both in the camp and in the field, including the outposts and the raiding parties. And just then an earthquake struck, and everyone was terrified. I just like the series of events. Hey, come up, boy. We'll teach you how to, be a real man. We'll tell you what's what. They get up there. Jonathan just starts ripping,
just starts taking out. He's using the one sword of two that are available, but the one that's available right now. And I love this picture of the armor bearer just double tapping, like just going and finishing the job. And I think there's a great, lesson of working together, of community, of you got to have somebody watching your back. Who knows? Jonathan might have been defeated by something he didn't finish if he didn't have somebody that was with him. And so, but then God's awesome power shows through, terrifies the Philistines. But it starts with this action of faith, this movement of God wants to do something. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to step out. But unlike Saul, I'm not working to get my plan to make sure to save my own skin. I'm going to do what God is calling us to do, which is to save the people. In this, we start seeing these differences between Saul and Jonathan, but then we see Jonathan and David, the future king, being bonded by this understanding of God has called us to do this now, to work now, to action now. And I think it's a real beautiful thing. But that's our story, guys. Nice and short.
One of my favorite ideas is a couple of them, actually. One of them is we do hard things. I think there might be someone here wondering, well, should I go into ministry, or should I plant a church, or at what level do I buy in? Man, I don't want to say let the question be your confirmation at all. I think that's kind of silly too. I worked for a company that their motto was just one of the stupidest things I've ever thought of, which was, instead of ready, aim, fire, their idea was like ready, fire, aim. We need to quit being so conservative. We act before. So you're saying, as a corporation, you act before you plan? That sounds unbelievably stupid. So I love that Jonathan pauses for a second and says, hey, here's how we're going to handle this. Everybody does this. The boldest people who are successful that do this. SEAL Team 6 sits down and plans out what they're going to do before they go do it. The reason they're great is because they plan, and they're really good at then responding on the fly when things go sideways, because they always do. But if it's just the fear of the thing that's keeping you away, or the hold to security that's keeping you away, I would let the question continue to challenge you. And maybe you are more of an armor bearer. Then gather around you, get somebody who is what we call visionary or something like that.
Sure.
Make sure they're in their place and they know they're not running the whole thing. That may be a challenge. But anyway, figuring out that there's new ways to run organizations, to think about organizations, but the fear of not being able to stay the same as you are, you won't. You cannot. If you want to maintain your retirement and everything else, then probably stay where you're at. It doesn't mean you can't make it, but if your plan, I'm going to do this and I'm going to grow to 10,000 church and stuff, look, it's possible. The odds are so unbelievably low. What you can do, though, is start something that cares for people, or get involved with small groups at your church so that you can figure out, are you actually a worthwhile human that should be leading people, and continue to grow. Get underneath somebody who is a human that you want to emulate, and really purposefully learn. There's so much, but let it be a challenge. If you start dreaming, if you walk into places and go, I think I would do this. There's some leadership in you. Now let it be refined. Let it get beat up so that you also become a good thing as you begin to go do bold things.
Amen. Ryan, any final thoughts?
It just the having a plan thing, and like it makes me think of the movie 300, where they're super planned out and how they do things, like it's ingrained in them. And then they meet these Acadians who they're described as brawlers, and they don't really have they run in just swinging, and he kind of goes, they do their part, like that kind of thing. Like they can have a little bit of an effect, but not as much as us who have this system, this plan of how we execute. And so like I think that like it's worthwhile to sit down and strategize, anything. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, guys, thank you for letting me bring a story to you here today. And hopefully, as people listen, they were spurred up in their faith, whatever you've been sitting on. Uh, Make a plan and
Yeah.
go in action. And
Yeah.
if you're still feeling a little underconfident, find a friend, bring them along with you. And man, you never know what you can do as God pushes you forward to expand His kingdom.
And my version is perhaps God is enough to help to cause us to move.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's good.
Amen.
Good. All right, people. If you're enjoying the Odd Testament podcast, we would love your support. And the best way to do that is first take a moment to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Wherever you listen, give us 5 stars, thumbs up, all that good stuff. We'd love that. Next, don't forget to subscribe, follow, like, hit the notification bell so you stay up to date on all of our latest content. New episodes drop every Monday, so be on the lookout for that. And finally, follow us on social media. We would love to connect with you that way. We'd love to continue these conversations there. We want to hear from you. So we love doing this. Your support means the world to us, and together we can continue bringing all this awesome content to the world. So we love you guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.